Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Stop them. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army.
Welcome to Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project and broadcast on TLBTV. Every once in a while, we get to do a special show. And what I mean by a special show is we break the mold. Okay, we either bring someone in you've never met before, someone who's got a great word, not so much tonight, okay? You probably will be familiar with at least one of our guests tonight. But we're going to do something tonight we have never done before, and I'm absolutely thrilled. But before we get to that point, and before I introduce my absolutely phenomenal co-host, Rebecca, I want to talk just a little bit about, look, what's up in the sky? It's a bird, it's a plane. No, I'm just kidding. But I am so sick and tired. I live in Arkansas, and when I look up at my sky, I don't know, at least half of every week, I see lines crisscrossing my sky going one way, going the other way, in almost perfect geometric patterns. And when I point this out to people, they say, oh, those are contrails. Those are jets going by, and that's the exhaust they leave behind. All right, I have to explain something to you people. You probably already understand this. My mama didn't raise no idiots, okay? A contrail disappears between 10 and 20 lengths of the plane laying down a contrail. There is such a thing as contrails. They do exist, but they only exist at the most for 30 to 40 lengths of a plane as it goes by. If you have lines going this way, and you have lines going this way, and they've been hanging around for hours, these are not contrails. The old term for this used to be chemtrails, or chemicals that were sprayed into our atmosphere. And still, I get pushback when I explain this to people. And this is an absolute fact, okay? I still get pushback. So then I look at them and say, I live in the middle of Arkansas. I live in the Ozarks. There isn't a big airport anywhere around for me, and you're going to tell me that a dozen jumbo jets had nothing better to do than play tic-tac-toe in the sky over my head. And then a couple of hours later, all of those lines merge in what was an absolutely gorgeous, crystal clear sky, now turns into a putrid gray sky, and this is what we have for the rest of the day. Some of you may not know, but Ralph Ely, who is the senior editor for the Liberty Beacon Project, lives here with me. This is very convenient. This is our headquarters. This is where we do a lot of publishing for a lot of the websites for the TLB Project. He is very sensitive to what's in the air. I look up in the sky. I see we've been sprayed. I look at Ralph. This guy has to take a nap in the middle of the day. He finds it hard to breathe. He gets massive headaches. What are we getting rained on? We're getting rained on with nano-sized particles of aluminum, barium, strontium, and I could go on and on, including organic components. Yes, I said that, organic components. The guest we have tonight and the person he brought with him, and I'm not going to give you any clues, have been doing this for life, and they do it. This guy does it very seriously, and we have the utmost respect for his word. And with that, she needs no introduction. I will turn the floor over to Rebecca Mahan, who is not only the media director for the Liberty Beacon Project, but is also the host of Rebecca Sounds Reveille. How are you today, Rebecca?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I'm very excited about
this. I really am.
Yes, me too. This is really going to be quite a show because we have got two phenomenal guests with us today. One, Fabienne, is a 9-year-old blossoming activist. You're going to be completely blown away at the information that she's going to share with us today. She was born in Korea, and she really cares about the planet, the future, and the outcome of humanity. And her hobbies include origami, knitting, and artsy stuff that she can do with her hands. But that's not any surprise, because with us is a guest we've had in the past, and I'm really excited because there's some information that he's going to share with us today that many may not have heard yet. And let me give you a little bit of background about him. He has studied business and received a bachelor's degree in marketing management from Virginia Tech. He's worked in finance. He's studied film at Cal State University of Humboldt, and that's California State University. He holds a master's degree in business administration with a focus in strategic sustainability. This is crucial to what he's doing now. And after working in business and finance, he decided to leave the corporate world and become an organic farmer. Now, this ties in with Fabi, our other guest, and why maybe she has some artsy, crafty things going on with her hands that she likes to do. But this is where our guest, Matt Landman's, his activism really began. It cultivated right when he was in the midst of being able to get on with the farming. And so he's working outdoors and he was dependent on the elements, and lo and behold, he starts seeing with his own eyes that there is weather engineering going on in Northern California. And so this is during a time period where the region was suffering from a significant drought. And this isn't new to California. In fact, this has been going on for some time. And there's probably been a lot of questions for those out there who've been wondering why there is drought going on, why there are certain things happening. And this was something that, of course, Matt questioned as well. And he started doing all kinds of investigation and research on this. And so at this point, he realized that the weather, it was being manipulated via atmospheric aerosol dispersal, whatever you want to call it, because there's a lot going on up there. And it really changed his life. And since that time, he's really devoted his entire existence and that of his family to exposing the hidden agenda that's been going on. And so he brought some things out in 2015, and he has been so committed that he hosted the first annual Global Chemtrail Summit in Vancouver, Canada in May of 2016. That went over very well. And then again, he did that in May of 2017. And now, in May of 2018, he's going to be hosting the third, but this time it's going to be in Tucson, Arizona. And we're going to talk about why this is so significant. And I want to go back. So between 2017 and now, we're talking about a documentary that Matt has released, which is absolutely incredible. It's called Frankenskies. I've seen it. I've talked to him about it. It's beyond informative. It's something that is mind-blowing, because if you have not studied geoengineering, you don't know anything about contrails, chemtrails, what's going on with the tic-tac-toe pattern in the sky, and the images that you can't make from clouds anymore like you did when you were a kid, when you laid down and looked up at the sky. There's some real interesting information that he provides there. So in combination with the documentary of Frankenskies and what's coming up at this next Global Chemtrail Summit, there's some information that's going to be gleaned. So I'd like to welcome both Matt Landman and Fabi to the show. Welcome, you two.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Well, hey, Matt, listen, what Rebecca said, all of it is phenomenal. All of it's great. And I confirm all of that. I've seen the work you've done, the whole 9 yards. She is telling everybody you are committed. We have something in common. People keep telling me I should be committed, but I don't think it's quite the same thing. Anyway, and how are you both? And look at that smile. This young lady has a beautiful smile, really. All right, so let's start this ball off rolling by you telling everybody, okay, I want to know, because you just made a major move, okay? You just moved to Arizona. That's not where you was, but that's where you is. So what I want to know is, there's got to be a why, all right? And I know there's a why. So start off by telling us, why did you move to Arizona, and how does that figure in with everything else that Rebecca just introduced our audience to?
And thank you so much for the lovely introduction, and thanks again for having us and me again. Yes, we were living in Vancouver, Canada, where I met Fabi's mom, and we got really inspired by how many people were starting to wake up, especially down in the States, it seemed. And we were looking for the right place to be for the activism for chemtrails. And as we were trying to figure that out, all of this information started unfolding, where the normalization and the public launch of chemtrails was actually unfolding. And we learned that the experiment to normalize it and the unfolding of it all was happening in Arizona. So we moved to Arizona from Vancouver, Canada, to be closer to that, to have the third conference down here and to hold a protest and to hopefully, you know, modify this, or actually impact this historical timeline to show that there was an opposition to this, at least.
Well, Fabi, what do you think of Arizona?
I think it's really sunny and really nice, but all summer it rains usually.
Okay. Well, look, you have this big project that's coming up, okay? But I would like you to introduce to everybody, because there's a history here. You've already done several of these, okay? We know that there's a special reason for you to be in Arizona. It has something to do with gates, something to do with the purchase of property, something to do with an experiment they're going to do, which absolutely sends chills up my spine. But this is not the first time you've done this. As Rebecca said, you've done this several times before. So let's give us, our audience, a little bit of a historical perspective on why did you do it? Why did you do the first one? Why do you figure this has to be done each year? And again, let's focus a little bit on why Arizona?
So after I woke up to chemtrails, like you said in the awesome introduction, that I woke up to weather engineering while working as an organic farmer. Once I finally got some traction after having woken up a couple years prior, I realized that I wanted to make an amazing documentary, because I wasn't happy with what was out there existing. So to get everybody in the same place at the same time, I brought together for the first time in Vancouver this global summit. And there I learned that in getting the activists on a stage and giving them their chance to share their information and to inspire them and activate these activists was a really important thing for the movement. I really thought I was just going to be making a movie about, hey, chemtrails are real. I never thought it would actually unfold to making a film about the official launch of chemtrails and just showing the people the official narrative and asking them if they actually consent to that. So yeah, I hosted the first one in Vancouver and then had smaller events almost every other month. Even my film release, Frankenskies, and film screenings and what have you. And then the second global summit in Portland was a huge success. And then now in Arizona, the third one is literally the opposition to the official launch, where David W. Keith is going to be going up in a balloon and spraying the skies over Tucson to try to create dimming of the sun, which is not anything that in public even knows about, or has anybody even been asked if they consent to changes in their air quality or changes in their sunlight or anything like that. So what's happening really quick is David W. Keith is the primary solar geoengineer. He is out of Harvard. He's part of a group of patent holders. Okay, he and Bill Gates, they're part of this thing called the Royal Society. And it gets even deeper when you see that Bill Gates is investing in land outside of Phoenix to build a smart city, and that Arizona is actually the first state that's going 5G, the first state to go fully 5G. And this all correlates to the launch of geoengineering in Arizona. And this will all unfold in my sequel to Frankenskies, where I get deep into frequency and frequency control and mind control en masse.
Okay, I got to jump in and ask you a question because you just pointed something out that I think people need to understand. Okay, one of the biggest components or fallout components from geoengineering, and we're told it's to reflect sunlight, is a massive amount of nano-sized particles of aluminum. Okay, aluminum is highly conductive. 5G, especially for that beautiful young lady sitting right next to you, okay? 5G is most damaging to our young females. As a matter of fact, 4G in our schools right now, if a child goes from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, by the time they graduate, 57%, this is science that's already been performed, 57% of our young female population will be sterile. 5G is a whole lot worse than 4G. And now we've got geoengineering, which is sprinkling massive amounts of nano-sized particles of aluminum into the air, and we're broadcasting 5G through the air. What is this doing to our children, Matt? What is it doing to them?
Well, it's an experiment unfolding, that's for sure, because I know my childhood, I didn't have the exposure to nanoparticulate aluminum. And what happens in a 5G environment is this EMF of these frequencies, they make your blood-brain barrier more permeable. And that's the problem that the agenda has as it unfolds, is they're not getting enough aluminum in our brains because some of us are waking up and not consuming the fluoride, and we're chelating our bodies and taking our health in our own hands. Fabi knows all about it. Fabi's actually really smart. What do you know about chelation? What do you know about cooling metals out?
You can detox.
You can detox, yeah. So we did.
Zeolite.
There you go, zeolite. Zeolite has an opposite charge of the heavy metals, and it acts as actually like a sieve going through and pulling the heavy metals out of your body to help detox. You know, you kind of have to take and empower and get it into your own hands, and you can counteract these things. But a lot of people aren't in the know, which is a shame.
You're talking about the blood-brain barrier, okay? You're talking about 5G actually allowing heavy metals to permeate the blood-brain barrier easier. What most people don't understand is that fluoride in the fluoridated water, and the reasons why we find it very difficult, if not impossible, to get the fluoride out of our municipal water is fluoride allows heavy metals to pass across the blood-brain barrier. Fluoride weakens the blood-brain barrier. So if the fluoride can't do it, and we're waking up to the fluoride and we're drinking unfluoridated water, what do they need to do? They've got to give us 5G because they've got to get that aluminum into our brain somehow. Fabian, have I got this right?
So, you know, there's something that you mentioned, Matt, that I think is really crucial to change, and that is being able to find ways to counteract different things that we experience. Because if we have all the information, the biggest question is what's going to be done about it? What can we do to change it, or what can we do to make ourselves as healthy as we can? So I kind of want to go to Fabi here, because Fabi, you know some things that many people don't know about counteracting some of the things that are going on. And with your age and the things that you know, let me first start and ask you, how did you start learning about geoengineering?
Well, when Matt met Mommy, he told us about chemtrails, and then I was really mad. I was like, why? And so then I kind of became like a mini Matt, almost.
Okay, so what did you start doing? Were you paying more attention to the skies, or were you reading up, or what kinds of things were you doing? Because you're a hands-on kind of girl.
I was helping Matt do stuff, and he also asked me to make signs for him.
She made some cool artwork, and I remember you did a whole little David Keith presentation on the computer. Remember that? That was really funny. She's done some.
So you're doing kind of fun homework in a way to learn about your own environment and how you can help other people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what did you learn about, you talked a minute ago, you used a word that counteracts some of the toxic things that we're exposed to. Can you tell me what that word was again?
Zeolite.
Zeolite. And what does that do?
I think it pulls like heavy metals out of your body.
Mm-hmm. And so are there things that you do on a daily basis, Fabi, to keep yourself kind of away or guarded from the things that you have learned that are toxic to you?
Yeah, we drink juices that Matt makes and maybe unchlorinated water. And Matt or Mommy doesn't really buy any drinks from the store anymore that have water in them.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Because
good.
some of those things are filled with chemicals that are not good for your body. Is that right?
Yeah, because some of them are from places where they fluoridate their water, and even if it says filtered water, it still doesn't get it.
Okay, that's a really good point. And Roger, I kind of want to ask you about this because a lot of people don't understand, and you know very much about this, the water filtration and what's in the water, and essentially that's coming from above, because it's coming down from the clouds and into the ground, and we're getting our water from somewhere.
Well, we have a lot of runoff. We do. We have runoff from the fields, which contains, toxins such as glyphosate. Glyphosate causes sterility. Glyphosate causes cancer. It's used on so many crops, it's insane. All right, so that washes into the water. The nanoparticulates of aluminum falling from the sky, again, a lot of that washes into the water. You've got the fluoride. The fluoride in the water, fluoride is extremely toxic. So now you've got someone Fabi's age, okay? She's drinking fluoridated water, which is also chock full of things like glyphosate and nanoparticulates of aluminum. At your age, Fabi, okay, your body and your blood-brain barrier are much more susceptible to being violated than someone my age or Matt's age or Rebecca's age, okay? So if you're drinking fluoridated water and you're drinking water that has aluminum in it and you're drinking water that has glyphosate in it, then it's poisoning your body. You're going to end up with a much better chance of getting cancers. You're going to end up with a much better chance of being sterile. You're going to end up with a much better chance of having a lot more diseases and maladies than us older people, us adults would, and especially somebody my age. I'm old enough to be your great-grandfather. I'm almost 64 years old. So a lot of these things don't affect me as much, or I won't be on the planet long enough over time for them to affect me. But someone your age will be affected by this. And you are the generation, it's the future of this country. If we don't protect you and children your age, Fabian, then where will America be in 20 or 30 years? You are the most precious resource this country has. You, young lady, I'm talking about you.
So yeah, Fabi's really excited to know a lot of different things. She looks at ingredients on the back, and we buy only organic because we know the health adverse effects and stuff like that. Even the toothpaste and what else?
Yeah.
What else do we know about? We're totally in the know about vaccines and fluoride and the 5G towers, and we got a 5G meter and clothing that protects from it, and a smart meter guard, right?
Yeah.
I wrote an article, Matt. I would like you to bring it up for her on the Liberty Beacon and let this young lady read it, okay? It is called Connecting the Dots, okay? My fellow lab rats, this is Connecting the Dots of Tyranny. What it does is it talks about vaccines, massive drugging of America, especially our children, pharmaceutical drugs, GMOs, fluoridated water, the whole 9 yards, and it connects the dots between all of them. And Fabi, I think you would absolutely love this article. And it also has about 50 additional links to additional research. But I really do think, Matt, you would enjoy it, but I know Fabi would enjoy it because it literally says all of these things aren't happening by themselves and by coincidence. All of these things are happening in a unified push against humanity. And I wouldn't be saying this if you hadn't already alluded to it, Matt.
Yes, and Matt, let's talk about your upcoming your upcoming summit, because this is something that now this is going to be the third one, and I'm wondering, as you continue and as much as you're exposing, and this is going to end up being a national declared month of geoengineering at some point. Geoengineering Awareness Month or something.
Okay, you got your mic muted.
Oh.
Okay.
I'd like it to be, yeah, sorry about that. I'd like it to be an every month event. The reasoning behind the annual is to really make it seem super important for people to get involved. The speaker lineup that we have this year, there you go. The speaker.
Yes.
This year we've got Ilana Freeland again, and we've got even a nurse coming to speak. We've got a gentleman from LA Skywatch, John Knox speaking, Patrick Roddy of StopSprayingUs.com. I'll be giving a presentation. Fabi may even be giving a presentation. And at the end of it all, we're all going to line up the 300, 400 people that are there. We're all going to line up, and we're going to say that we do not consent. We do not consent to solar geoengineering. It's so weird, the dystopian reality that we live in. Somehow there's all these invisible contracts that we never knew about, and our silence has turned into consent. And this is one of the most important messages to pass down to the next generation, because they come in thinking that everything's okay, and they just start taking authority as the truth instead of truth as the authority, and they never even see truth because there's this attack on discernment. Discernment has literally been under attack, I've noticed, especially over the past couple of years with fake news, and the kids don't even know what to think. They can't discern, because from out of the womb, right when they come in, they're getting indoctrinated every which way into not being able to think for themselves.
What is she saying over and over again, pantomiming? Fabi, what are you saying when you got your pretend mic in front of your face?
We do not consent. We do not consent. We do not consent.
All right. Very good.
So
Let's talk about consent for 1 second, because you just hit on what I think is probably your strongest point. All right. You and I both know, because we've been looking at this stuff for years. We've been seeing the lines in the skies for years. We know it's been happening for years, but what have they been telling us? You're nuts. It's not happening. Now, all of a sudden, they're not only telling us it's happening, but that it needs to happen. We need to make a reason why this is a good thing, why we have to do this. So why, if it's such a good thing, and here's where I want you to jump in, if it's such a good thing, why for the last 10, 15 years have they been telling us we're nuts, this isn't happening? Why?
Well, the most staggering part of it all, in my opinion, is that they want to launch full-scale deployment, okay? They want to mimic a volcanic eruption. It's really hard for people to grasp. And when I was talking to a gentleman the other day, he said to me, because I do all this grassroots activism, I'm passing out flyers every day, and Fabi's always making sure I bring—
Don't take a fly.
Yeah, Fabi's always trying to help me get those flyers out there. How can you not accept one from this young 9-year-old? So what I've realized is we're up against this brainwashing agenda where you have to frame it a different way to really get it to the public. The media is really good at framing it one way, okay? But what I realized the other day when the gentleman said, "You mean we're going to lose our blue skies?" And that's exactly what's going to happen. They want to mimic a volcanic eruption, which is a global thing. They're calling it a Mount Pinatubo effect. The volcano, Mount Pinatubo, it erupted in the Philippines in 1991. All of this sulfuric dust went up in the atmosphere. It shrouded the earth. It got in the atmosphere, all this dust. And it supposedly, according to science, lowered the global mean temperature about 1 degree Celsius. 1 degree. They claim they can mimic a volcanic eruption with nanoparticulates. They claim they don't know which nanoparticulates they're going to use, even though they've been using aluminum this whole time. And they're going to experiment with a balloon. And it's literally unfolding right before our eyes, where they want to get to a point, which is just a couple years from now, where they get to launch full-scale deployment and do it everywhere all at once to be able to mimic a volcano. They say if we don't do it everywhere all at once, everywhere on Earth all at once, then we can't see if our experiment works. And then they also say once we start,
we can't stop.
once we start, we can't stop.
Well, I have a question for you. Answer me this then. Why is it that the more scientists are jumping up and saying, well, they said a majority of the scientists said that global warming is happening, but I didn't really say that. And more scientists are stepping up saying, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. And why is it that we are suffering through the coldest winters we have seen in decades, if not generations? And why are scientists saying we're going into a mini ice age, not global warming? Where is this? You notice they went from global warming to climate change?
I haven't answered your question. They're telling us we're going into an ice age, a mini ice age, because they're about to put us into a mini ice age by blocking out our sun. So they have to pre-program us to that. So that's why they say that. And then the global warming thing, it's because of the mind control device, which is our television and now our phones. They control the narrative through the consolidated media that none of it that we can trust except for you, thank you so much, and a few other people out there. But officially, the news is corrupted. Operation Mockingbird, look it up. There's the disinformation, the attack on discernment, and we can't even sink our teeth into the truth unless we have been completely awakened by all of it.
In 1981, okay, the director of the CIA, 1983, told a brand new president, he said to him, we will know our program of disinformation has succeeded when everything the American people believe is false. And this was William Casey, director of the CIA, talking to Reagan.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So what we're dealing with is a controlled media that controls the narrative. And what do they tell us? They tell us that global warming is here and we've got to be worried. Then they mix it up and attack the information to make sure that there's no discernment out there by releasing the exact opposite. Then they'll say, oh, we're going into an ice age. Then they'll say, we have to do geoengineering. We've already started, but if we start, we can't stop. And what we have to do is make sure our geoengineering works with this balloon. You got Roger and everyone listening. The balloon, the scariest part about the balloon that I just learned is it has a tube going to the ground where they keep refueling the tanks. It doesn't go up and release and go. It can hover up there for months, releasing its payload with tubes from the ground. And they say they want to try mirrors, but mirrors probably won't work. They say they want to try diamond dust, but diamonds are too expensive. They say they want to try sulfur, but it just falls out of the sky. They say they want to try calcite. They don't think it's going to work. And they just happen to be equating into all of their graphs different sizes of aluminum oxide, this nanoparticulate level versus this. And I can almost guarantee you, I wish that I could bet on this in Vegas or something. They're going to pick the aluminum and then they're going to say, we can do this full scale everywhere.
Aluminum is one of the most toxic substances to human physiology, not only to the body, but especially to the brain. It literally strips the coating off of the little tiny neurons that fire up and allow you and I to think by passing electrical current between these neurons. It literally strips the coating off of them. Once you damage a brain cell, it cannot be repaired. It's gone forever. Aluminum and mercury are two of the most toxic metals you can possibly put in the human body. But we're going to put a couple 100 billion tons of it in nano-sized particles that you breathe in every day up in the atmosphere. This is horrendous. What do you think about this, Fabian? What do you think about it?
Oh, me. I think it's not good.
Okay. All right. But you're breathing it. So you want...
At least you could take the tinfoil hat off and be safer.
Very good. So I want to see videos from Matt of you standing up at this symposium with a real microphone telling everybody you won't consent, instead of sitting in a chair, miming it or pantomiming it. Yes. Yeah.
So Matt, can you tell the audience how they can get involved with the summit that's coming up here in Tucson in May, and how they can either be an attendee or be a part of the conference? So
the conference is on May 12th. It's in Tucson, Arizona. we're going to follow it up the next day. It's on a Saturday. The next day on Sunday, we're going to be holding a protest. We'll have signs that say we do not consent. We'll have signs that say we demand unbiased media coverage. We're going to be going to the local news station, and we're going to at least make a little dent in their psyche and have them at least question their integrity and their morals. And then we are going to have another conference later on in the year. I'm going to figure out when the heck I think that they're going to be doing this experiment, because they haven't given an official date. But then we're going to do another conference, and we're going to do another protest. We're going to have some film screenings in there too, and really get some momentum in Tucson, so that when they actually do have their experiment, we can have a full-on protest and show the world that there's an opposition to this, and that we have facts. And guess what? They've been doing it for a long time too, by the way. But we might just have to stick to the official narrative and say, no, we have the human right to a say in environmental decision making. And this is a decision being made about our environment. And here's what we have to say. We do not consent to solar geoengineering. Yes, exactly. Fabi knows.
So this is an organized event all the way from the conference to your protest. And
Is it going to be live? Is it going to be broadcast live?
Of course, yes. It'll be broadcast live on actualactivists.com, my website. I'm also doing a daily truth on actualactivists.com, and I'm looking forward to turning it into a social media site this year. It's really getting some momentum, and it's a really focused place for truth. And the censorship we've been witnessing.
It's a peaceful protest, correct?
Oh, always, of course. Yeah, no, we can't. We're just looking to raise awareness, because this is, look,
Perfect.
to me, solar geoengineering is just like GMO. It's almost exactly the same. And we were at a point in history just a couple decades ago where GMO, nobody had any idea. But now we go in the store and it's labeled and people are informed, and
Right.
you have the option. And, you know, it was because people didn't consent to it that organic food is thriving and that we have labels. So I want it to be just like that, where enough people are informed that we can tell the world whether or not we want this, or at least we have some scrutiny and transparency.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're about at the end of our little recording here. So what I would like to do is give both of you about a minute or two to say anything you want the audience to hear. Then we'll go to Rebecca, and of course, I'll take us out of the show. But let's take about a minute each and tell the audience what you feel they need to take away from this episode, please.
I'll go first. Please, if you can check out the website, stopgeoengineeringtucson.com. Even if you're just a human being breathing air on Earth, stopgeoengineeringtucson.com. It really details the experiment and how it's unfolding, and that this is real world, and that it's your livelihood, your future, your bloodline's future. It's humanity here is what's at risk. And I want to leave you with one thing. I want you to think about your great, 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 great grandparents and their whole bloodline, your whole everything, and realize that somebody in your DNA, they fought for you. They fought for your freedoms, and they got you to where you're at. We live comfortably for a reason, and we can't let go of everything that we fought for just one generation of thinking that someone else is going to do it for us.
All right, your turn, young lady. What do you want everybody to walk away from this with?
To eat organic.
Well, that's a good point. That really is. And most people don't understand or understand the necessity for that. Anything else?
Not really.
No, come on, say it.
Well,
Okay.
you just said it over and over and over again. What were you saying into that pretend microphone?
We did not consent
And why don't you consent?
because we don't like the chemicals in the air, because when we breathe, it's like the most important part of life. So we need to be healthy, even the air, and so everybody needs to live a good life.
See? All you got to do is prompt just a little bit. You're absolutely right. She is very intelligent, Matt, and she's probably a lot more aware than most 9-year-olds would ever be on these topics. I think you're doing a phenomenal job, both you and your lady.
She's being pretty shy tonight. We've done a few shows together where she's the host, and she's actually really informed. and educated about magnesium. Do you remember the magnesium?
It takes how many?
54.
54 molecules? Atoms?
It takes
54
atoms.
Atoms of molecule.
Oh, forget it. It takes
54 something of magnesium to process one something of sugar.
It's a 54-to-1 ratio. 54 molecules of magnesium to process
Only
one
one
molecule of sugar.
Wow.
So
how many kids even know that much? Give me a break. Okay, look,
really
this
quick,
isn't the last time she's coming on. I promise you that.
let me tell everyone out there. So if we're getting sprayed with metals, our bodies can either absorb the metals or not. And if we're mineral deficient, then we're absorbing the minerals. So if we're magnesium deficient because we haven't had a 54-to-1 ratio of sugar to magnesium in our diet, we need to get mineral saturated and not have that deficiency. We won't absorb it as much, or at all. So take the information, take it into your own hands, and the truth will set you free, and you'll be unstoppable.
Yeah.
All right, Rebecca, this has been great. I absolutely love it. But then I am so, I get the biggest smile on my face when I see that this young generation, this very young generation, they're involved. They're starting to learn. They're aware of what's going on around them. It puts a huge smile on my face. And I've seen you smiling this whole show, Rebecca.
Oh, I think it's just amazing at how much our children know. And I bet that even aside from the things that she's learned and researched on her own, she is smart enough to see what's going on. And just from even some of the media that's already out there that we don't necessarily agree with, I think that our children are very, very aware. And so the more education and understanding that they have, the better educated they are. And then they can make choices that allow for counteractive toxification.
You just said it. Okay, let's talk about counterculture. And this is how I'm going to bring the show out. Let's talk about counterculture, okay? When I was a kid, okay, I came from a generation, I was born in the mid-50s, where we had just been through a world war. We had just been through the Korean conflict, so on and so forth. We were a generation that was based on military. What was the counterculture that I grew up in? Well, gee, that was the hippies. That was the anti-war. We demonstrated against the wars. We were the counterculture of our parents. Today, we are seeing such a liberal-minded sect in this country, okay? And those are the people right now who are graduating from high school, taking on the jobs, starting to lead the country. These are progressives. These are liberals. Our youngest generation today is the counterculture. Our youngest generation today is the most conservative generation born since before World War II. They are the most aware of their rights, their liberties, things that are happening to them that shouldn't be happening to them, things that are illegal that shouldn't be happening to them, like spraying me from the sky, forcing me to get vaccines I know are poisoning me, not telling me I'm eating food that's poisoning me, so on and so forth. So the generation of children, like that beautiful young lady sitting right next to you, this is the most conservative generation born in 60 years. This is the counterculture. They're going to do more to save this country and this planet than the generations between me and them have ever done. And you're doing a hell of a job. Both you and your lady are doing a hell of a job with this young lady, and we're proud of you. So for everybody watching, this has been Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, brought to you by TLBTV, okay, and the Liberty Beacon Project. We hope you enjoyed this as much as we did, and we wish you all a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.